So I'm here with my temporary neighbours, Chris and Allison Brundage. And the reason why I say they're temporary is because they're home on furlough. They're missionaries in Zambia. So I'm really excited about interviewing them and just finding out a little bit about them, because they don't have very much longer here. They're heading back to Zambia within weeks, if not days perhaps, depending on flights and all that sort of thing. So Alison, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I grew up just outside Riff Island, went to school here and then went to Queen's to do nursing, and then I worked in the city hospital for about 10 years before I took a career break to go travelling. So I went to Togo in West Africa, to Zimbabwe to help in an orphanage, and then I went to Zambia to the mission station where we now live.
So 10 years nursing, and then you embarked on travelling the world.
It was time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were single then, you hadn't met Chris?
No, I was still single, yeah.
Great, very good. Chris, your surname is Brundage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
I had to practice that one a bit. So Chris, you're not from around here?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Where were you born and brought up?
So I'm Canadian, and I was born in a town called Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay.
Yeah, which is in Ontario.
Okay.
So yeah, grew up there, spent my whole life there, and when I did do some post-secondary, I went to flight school and got a pilot's license and worked for a few years on the west coast of Canada, or on the east coast of Canada as a flight instructor. And then I came back to Thunder Bay and worked for a small airline for a few years, and then after that headed out to Zambia to Chit, where we are.
So that was a commercial airline you flew for?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Was that something you always wanted to do, be a pilot?
I always wanted to do something sort of adventurous, something outdoors. I don't think I ever wanted to be in an office or. So I wanted to work on a boat or a plane, but I wasn't. I was never like an aviation enthusiast, really. Like when I was looking at going back to school, I didn't really have it in my head. I just happened to be flipping through a course calendar and saw an aviation program, and was like, oh.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Good career guidance, that one.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Very good.
Yeah.
So we have a pilot and a nurse. We're really going up market here in second and third. Very good. So you're both Christians.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your journey of faith, how you came to Christ. Awesome.
I grew up, my parents were both Christians, so I grew up knowing the gospel. I grew up knowing that I needed to get saved, that Jesus had died for me, that I needed to trust him. So I actually got saved when I was quite young, when I was only 8 years old.
Wow.
I decided that I would get saved. So I knew the head knowledge, but when I was 8, I decided to make a personal decision and trust Jesus.
Very good.
So, yeah.
And so you've been walking with the Lord now for many years, and that journey has taken you to the mission field.
Yeah, and it's been up and down over the years.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris, what about you?
I similar. Like my parents were Christians, and I grew up going to church, but I didn't actually become a Christian until I was 20 years old.
Right. You're really old compared to Allison.
Yeah. So I had a bit of sort of a conversion experience when I was 11 that I clung to,
Okay.
but there was no reality there.
Okay.
Like my life didn't change at all. So it wasn't until I was 20 that I did get saved.
And so you're both missionaries. When did the idea of serving God in the mission field start for you, Alison? Was that something that sort of struck you at 8 years old, or was it a dawning reality over the years?
I think I grew up and went to a lot of CEF events.
Right.
So you were a child at camps, and then whenever you were old enough, if you were a Christian, you were asked to come back and help. So you were always asked to be involved and to reach out to others. So it was always something that I thought you had to do at home as well.
Wow.
But I enjoyed travelling, and it wasn't until then I travelled that I thought maybe it's something I should be doing more long term.
Okay, so was there a moment? Did you feel God speak to you clearly at a particular time, or was it a gradual awakening, I want to go to the mission field?
I think it was both gradual, plus there was a specific time whenever I thought, this is me, I have to go and do this.
Can you describe that time for us?
Yeah. So each time I went travelling, I felt like it was the right thing to do, and I felt like I would pray, you know, if God didn't want me to do it, that the doors would close, that I wouldn't get the time off work or the opportunity wouldn't arise. And each time I think you go out praying that if you're meant to be there more long term, that you'll know about it.
Right.
So each time I went out with that in mind. But when I came back to my job after 5 years, after my career break, I was at a meeting in Belfast, and there was a missionary speaking, and she put out the challenge to everybody, you know, to go and serve. You know, people needed to go overseas and reach the lost and to share with them the gospel. And I remember sitting in the meeting having goosebumps, looking around thinking, there's lots of people can go and do this, and then thinking, actually that lady's really old and she's got lots of kids, and you know, there's actually not that many people in the church that were able to go. And I was free and I enjoyed travelling, and I thought, well, it could be me. And she read from Mark chapter 14 about the lady who broke the bottle of perfume and poured it over Jesus, over his head. And the other disciples in the room said, don't waste the perfume, you could have sold it and made some money or whatever. And Jesus says, no, she's done what she could. So this missionary lady said, you know, everybody in this room, do what you can. And for me, I had goosebumps, and I thought, well, I should be going back to Chitokoloki to Zambia, to the mission station, because I've been there. They need nurses and I can do it, you know, with God's help. I'm not very good at it, but I can try. I'll do what I can. So that for me was the point when I thought, that's God calling me to go full time.
That's very special.
Yeah.
Very special. Chris, what has been your journey into the mission field? Sort of bearing in mind that you both went into the mission field as single people. You didn't know each other at this stage.
No.
Okay. So Chris, what's your journey into the mission field? How's it been?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I had a lot of clarity about it, but like when we were kids, we had missionaries from Zambia come and give reports in our church, and one of them was a pilot. So I remember that from being really small. And when I did decide to go back to school and do aviation, I had something like this in mind.
Okay.
And I wasn't really sure about it. I wasn't sure if I was just pursuing something that I thought would be fun, you know, to satisfy myself and have a good life. So I wasn't really sure, you know what I mean? If God actually meant for me to be a pilot so that I could go to the mission field, or if I was just attracted to the flying side of it and the adventure and all that. So I struggled with that a bit, but I had to do something, and there was nothing else that was really sticking out to me. So I just pursued that.
Okay.
And worked as soon as I finished school, got a job as an instructor, and I put almost all my money towards paying off my student debt. I figured I'll pay off my student debt before I go. And it was right around the time that I paid off my student debt that the doors opened up for me to go. And for me, like the confirmation was more circumstances.
Okay.
I don't want to get into too much detail, but like the company where I was working, they needed pilots, and there was a lot of turnover, people going on to bigger and better things. So they had to do a lot of training, and I had just been trained on a new type. So, you know, it's not a very good testimony, I don't think, to, you know, get trained by your company and then just say, see you later, you know, after they put all this money into you. But so I just got trained on a new type of airplane, and right at the time I paid off my student debt, the company sent out a memo saying, we're going to have to do layoffs. Will anyone take a temporary leave of absence? So I was afraid about leaving and leaving a bad taste in their mouth, and now the shoe's on the other foot. They're saying, will you please leave? You know? And it was right at the time when the other pilot at Chitokoloki had just told the administrator that he wasn't going to be able to fly as much that year. So there were just a number of events sort of converged all at one time, and just made me pretty sure that, gave me assurance that that was what I was meant to do.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. Great. Super. So tell us a little bit about where you serve, and you've mentioned the name of the station, but can you say it very slowly, because I couldn't really pick it up, so that our listeners can maybe go and look it up on a map and start to pray for you guys.
It's Chitokoloki.
Chitokoloki. I
Yes.
got that.
Yeah, but you can shorten it to Chit.
Chitokoloki Mission Hospital in Zambezi district has one of the most advanced equipment for surgeries in the country. The success of this hospital attracts patients from as far off as Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Okay. This man is coming from Angola with a condition of right inguinal hernia. What happens with right inguinal hernia is there's a protrusion of some parts of the in the groin. There's a weak spot and then they start protruding. So what happens is they repaired them, the protrusion, and so he's just coming from the surgery which was done in the afternoon. Yeah.
Some of the medical procedures done here are unimaginable. These free medical services are highly appreciated. Patients come from as far as Lusaka and the Copper Belt. But the people who appreciate this facility more than anyone else are those who live around these parts. In this rural part of Zambezi, where government medical facilities have their own problems, Chitokoloki Mission Hospital is a lifeline for many.
The hospital is doing a great job. At school, when we have activities, sporting activities, they are able to support us with a first aid kit. They are able to help us with any emergency, all necessities that we need. We are given from this hospital. So it is doing a tremendous job for us around here.
So Alison, what sort of things do you do in the mission station?
Well, I did work full-time as a nurse in the hospital. So the hospital's busy, there's lots to do, and it's really good nursing experience. So that's what I was doing. Now, then last year we had Jack, so I was more at home and being more creative with my time. So there's lots of things to do in the nursing station. The nursing station.
Is that what you call it? Yeah. The mission station?
That's what she calls it.
Stations where we write our notes.
Well, it's probably a nursing station as well.
Yeah, there's lots of things that you can do. So when I had Jack and I was at home all the time, I had kids come round on a Monday afternoon and we did like a Bible class with them, and on a Tuesday afternoon kids came round for an English class. And then I visited old people on a Wednesday morning, checked their blood pressure, made sure they were taking their tablets.
Right.
They took the rest of the week off. No, Sunday we do Sunday school, and then just all the regular church activities and stuff. So the week just kind of takes care of itself. And there's a constant stream of people who want help for one reason or another, and just, so yeah, we keep busy. But yeah, I'm not in the hospital so much anymore.
So how big is your Sunday school?
We could have like maybe 150 to 200 kids some weeks.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, there's 320 on the register last year. Right. So lots of kids in the area, and it's just one Sunday school, there's another one as well.
Wow.
It's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Bedlam.
Yeah.
Bedlam, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's lively and
Yeah.
energetic.
We have 25 in our Sunday school, and it's pretty bedlam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then your brother told me that you work with the people who have leprosy. Is that right?
Yeah. So there was a leper colony,
right,
which used to be full of people with leprosy, but we now just have 11 patients in the leprosy colony.
Right.
And some of those had leprosy back in the day, and a few of them didn't have. But it's kind of, you don't have to be isolated now if you have leprosy. You can go back home and live in your own village.
Okay.
So years ago they brought them all to live at the hospital, and that's where they stayed. And they were kept away from their village. So we've just got 11 patients there now at the moment.
Right.
The story of 86-year-old Kenneth Samanenga and his wife Grace Kachana, 76, is one of these. Their story is an odd one. They met here at Chitokoloki Leprosarium. Both were patients as lepers, and they found love at the hospital despite their affliction. Samanenga came to the Leprosarium as a single man in 1952. He lived here until he was treated. When he was discharged, Samanenga found that he had nowhere to go. Family members he had left in the village had moved elsewhere, and those that remained did not want to have anything to do with him. Finding himself with no place to go, Samanenga returned to the Leprosarium. Like many lepers who are healed, the disease had left its mark, and meeting Grace Kachana was a blessing in disguise. 2 of their children and their 5 grandchildren also live here. The leprosarium at Chitokoloki is a busy place. In fact, it is more than a leprosarium. It is a colony. There are over 150 houses specifically built for lepers. Thankfully today, the number of leprosy patients has gone down drastically. Only the likes of Samanenga and Kachana, who have only known this life here for the major part of their lives, now remain.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And Chris, you're just flying about everywhere?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So who do you fly? Typically, who would you ferry?
We get a lot of volunteers out at Chit. So it's about a 2-day car drive. If you take about a 2-day car drive or a 1 very long day in the car, and we get a lot of visitors. So the plane mostly brings the visitors in and out. If they had to drive, somebody would be on the road almost full, like a missionary would have to be on the road almost full time, going back and forth between Lusaka, and it's just not practical.
Okay.
So mostly visitors, and then obviously when a visitor is coming up, we try and fill the flight. So like try and put a missionary on there who needs to go to town for something, or sometimes we do patient transfers. So people at Chit who can't be treated at Chit, we transfer them to the capital. But primarily visitors.
Okay. And have you had any really difficult flights with weather?
Yeah. So in Zambia you got a wet season and a dry season.
Right.
The dry season is 6 months of blue sky.
Okay.
Nothing but blue sky. You will not see a cloud for 6 months.
I have heard of countries like that.
Yeah. I know it's a foreign concept here.
Yes, it is.
And then the other 6 months, or well, probably not 6 months, maybe 4 months of the year, there's thunderstorms.
Okay.
So all of the rain in Zambia is almost always a thunderstorm. So you spend your time navigating through those in the rainy season. That can be pretty challenging.
All right.
Sometimes I've had to divert a few times and wait a storm out or
land in the middle of nowhere and hang out until the rain goes past.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
And so you're not 9 to 5?
flying?
Well, yes, your job. I mean, you don't start at 9 in the morning and finish at 5 in the evening.
Well, when I'm not flying, I work sort of in the maintenance side of the mission. So
Okay.
the day starts at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So they have devotions with the workers, and then you go to your jobs, whatever you're doing. So, whether it's a building project or maintaining something on the station or, fixing the internet,
Right.
like anything along those lines. There's not too many of us, so you end up having to try your hand at a lot of things.
I guess missionary life is a little bit like that. You've got to be able to put your hand to most things because you don't have this the service network, the structure around. You can't do it yourself.
Right. Even if you have no idea what you're doing.
Even if you have no idea. Yeah. Sounds a bit like home, actually.
Chris, you just YouTube a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure glad we have internet out there.
Yeah. And so you got married when?
2017.
2017. That was great.
Actually, today's our wedding anniversary.
Today's your wedding.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I told Chris about it this morning.
And so life has changed for you guys in the that's 3 years.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about Jack and your second one. Calvin, that's right. I knew that. So Jack and Calvin, 2 boys.
Yeah.
And how old is Calvin?
Calvin is 3.5 weeks now.
3.5 weeks. Yeah. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Were you up much last night?
No, actually, that was the best night I've had yet.
Oh, great.
You must have knew we were coming.
Yes,
here
he
today.
did. He gave you a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's crying his heart out for Nanny now, I'm sure.
I'm sure he is, yeah. Nanny's paying up.
Yeah.
So with Jack coming into your lives, I'm sure that changed things for you guys a little bit, probably more so for you, Alison.
Yeah, because I was working full time in the hospital, like not 9 to 5. You worked a full day and then you were on call anytime you were off.
Yeah.
So sometimes you didn't get very much sleep. So to go from being full time in the hospital and having a very clear role and responsibility to having a baby at home to look after and not being so involved with things. It was very different.
Right.
But Jack was a full-time job. Yeah.
As any?
And it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But
great.
he's lovely. He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is 2 twice the work of 1?
Well, I've got a little bit of help at home these days,
You've
so
got a
I
little
can't
bit.
quite say yet.
Yes. Okay.
Hopefully not.
Great. I've seen Jack. He's so cute. I don't think I've seen Calvin yet.
No, he hasn't been around the roads yet.
He hasn't been around the road.
Well, just one day. He screamed half of it.
So it's a joy. Perhaps to finish up, if I could ask, we'll ask Chris first of all, what would you say to someone listening to this, wondering if they're called to serve the Lord as a missionary overseas? Not everybody is called to serve the Lord as a missionary overseas. We're all called to serve in a mission here where we're placed, but perhaps there's someone listening to us now who feels the urge. What would you say to them, Chris?
Yeah, I guess just what was said to me, like, well, for one thing, I had a really hard time with flight instructing, which I worked at for a while. I didn't do too well, a bit short-tempered, and I get really frustrated with it. And my grandfather said to me, I was talking about going and flying in Zambia, and he's like, it's not good to go to the mission field because you can't make a go of it at home, you know. So it was good to, you know, put in your time at home, and I guess that's and just sort of do what's at hand. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of things to do here, and put your hand to it. And if God wants you to go, He'll make it clear to you one way or another.
Okay. Yeah. Because certainly for you there were open doors. You
Yeah.
did have it in your heart,
Right.
but there were open doors that
Right. And then the
you went
circumstances
through.
confirmed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
Yeah.
Alison, what would you say?
For me, you could keep putting off until you're like a perfect Christian before you would go and serve God or do anything really. You wait until you've got everything sorted. But that's not going to happen until we're in heaven. So if God wants you to go and you feel that that's what you should be doing, then maybe you should just go.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to have things perfect. But it doesn't get any easier when you're away.
Right.
It's not like
Yeah.
just because you're a missionary, all of a sudden your walk with God is effortless. It still takes time and effort, and it's still very difficult. And you miss having Christian friends around you. You miss a church service in English to help you along. You miss your friends and family to like encourage you. So it's a lot harder, I think, to be a Christian even though you're overseas as a missionary. It's difficult.
Yeah, that's another really good point. Like, you know, somebody said he like climbed Mount Everest, I think, but then he was sort of disillusioned with it all. He said like, wherever you go, there you are. You know,
Right.
you always bring yourself with you.
Yes.
So like, you kind of think you look to somewhere else and you think, oh, if I could get there, I'll have everything sorted. But you know, you have to sort everything, you know, here and now, because if you go there, you know, you're going to be the same person there.
Yeah.
So it's wherever you go, you have to, you know, continue to work at
I can identify with
following the
that.
Lord. Yeah.
As a minister, I mean, some people think ministers got it sorted spiritually in every way,
Mhm.
but we don't.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So, well, thank you for allowing me to interrogate you, to find out a little bit more about you. If folk listening to you wanted to pray for you, perhaps I could ask each of you for, say, one request. What, Chris, would you want folk to pray for you?
I think probably just for help to walk closely with the Lord. You know, that's if that's not in line, if you don't have that straight, nothing else falls into place. You know, everything is out of whack. So that's probably the thing I'd appreciate the most. You know, just help to walk with the Lord closely. You know.
Great. Alison?
There's so many things, I can't think of one. So the same as Chris, obviously, and we're involved with the Sunday school, so we would love people just to pray for the Sunday school, that we would have help in that.
Yeah.
Just, we work with them a lot in English, but their local language is not English. So just help to communicate the gospel clearly with them, and that some of the kids will get saved.
Well, thank you. So thank you for listening. Please do pray for Chris and Alison. They'll be heading back now, perhaps within a couple of weeks, and so keep them in your prayers. Thank you.
With the